Hi, I'm Professor Green, and now we'll be doing Chapter 11, Part 2. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm excited to walk through this final chapter with you all. So talking about negotiation, right? And I just really think back to the speakers that we have because can be so valuable and helpful to give us different outside perspectives. And so today we're going to be talking about describing methods of negotiation in ways that generate better outcomes. So embracing the need for negotiation, right? Identifying, when we need to negotiate and saying it's okay, let's go do it. If you think back to personal relationships or job salary negotiations, right? Sometimes you're just like, I just don't want to have to do it. But then if we shift our mindset, then we can be more comfortable with it all. We're going to use different negotiation strategies. So again, really getting us comfortable with this idea. And then guard against common negotiation pitfalls. So I'm currently reading the book by Elon Musk or listening it to on audio book. And it's just like, I wish he could take this course. He needs to take this course actually like 10 times, I think. Once would not be enough. He's a very bright guy, obviously a genius in many ways in the sciences, but he's almost ruined so many different companies and he's not been able to achieve his bigger goals because of this issue. So let me go ahead and keep going before I get too attached to Elon Musk and his background. Let me go ahead and flip to slideshow mode. So why negotiate? It's the process of making joint decisions when the parties involved have different preferences. So again, you have a different preference, your sibling might have a different preference, your parent, the HR person who's negotiating your salary, etc. Job offers, right? That's the first and foremost. And nowadays, organizations really expect you to negotiate. Salary agreements, assignments, budgets, right? The company has some money. Now you're going to talk about how much money they have to use on your project. And sometimes it gets very personal, right? That they're going to pay for you to go to Europe for a business trip, but are they going to pay you economy class or business class, right? Makes a big difference. Resources, TAs, assistants, technology, and then policy as well, which is a whole other course. So probably people do a master's or PhD in public policy, and there's a lot of negotiation there. So the next slide, before I get too much on a tangent here or go too deep, the need to negotiate. So yeah, and like, why do we talk about this more and more is because, back 2 generations ago, the manager would just say, he was the authority and he would say, these are the rules, and he wouldn't negotiate. But now, again, a flat structure, it's more team building, it's more talking, it's more communication. So actually we negotiate so much more than our parents did, or definitely that our grandparents did. So let's go ahead and keep going. Failing to negotiate means losing out on important opportunities and rewards. I had an MBA student who just signed up with Mercedes-Benz, as well as he got a second offer from Deloitte, and both companies expected him to negotiate. They give you an offer and they expect you to come back. I'm not used to that because, my parents are Swiss and my dad is Swiss, and even in the Czech Republic too, where my mom is from, where it's not the Mediterranean cultures where there's a lot of Greece, Italy, Spain, a lot of negotiation. But where we're from, we don't really negotiate. So for better or for worse, I don't really negotiate salaries, but now I'm learning that I probably should. That doesn't mean we can just enter negotiation with a wish list, right? So you have to come with facts, you have to come with information and justify why you think you need to have more money or something else that you might want. We have to do our homework, come prepared, and you want all parties to benefit. You want to say, I bring value, I deserve more. And so knowing our bargaining power, and we'll talk a lot about this in this chapter, bargaining power is the strength of the position we bring to a negotiation situation. So how strong is our negotiation? And if you think back to like family situations, sometimes you're really on strong ground, right? My son this weekend, he said, I clean the house, I clean my room, I now deserve some allowance so I can go buy a toy. And he was right. But there'll be weeks where he doesn't do anything. And then he still says, I want money to go buy a toy. And then his that bargaining power, not as good. So let's keep going. Negotiation goals and outcomes. They must know what they and the other party are trying to achieve. So that being said, I think Elon Musk is actually somewhat good at this. He does a lot of research about his bargaining other party. He seems to really be able to understand them quite a bit. And when he negotiated with Peter Thiel, he came in and he says, okay, I want 90% of PayPal. And Peter Thiel was like, you're crazy. But Peter Thiel felt that he was potentially just using this as a bargaining strategy, and he was going to eventually move forward. And yes, they eventually went to 50-50. But Elon Musk had just had something else in the deal that made him be able to be CEO. Anyway, so really understanding who what the other party is and what they want. Again, my MBA student, he knew that the other students were coming with less to Deloitte or to Mercedes. And so, and he knew that both those companies really wanted employees. So he was in a good spot. This involves a focus on two types of goals: substance goals and relationship goals. So, yes, the substance goals relate to the content issues under negotiation, a contract negotiation, or specific terms. And then there's also relationship goals. So the ability of managers or employees to work effectively together under a negotiation after negotiating a union contract or a job offer. So, right, you don't want to ruin the relationship. And, that's where Elon goes wrong very often. He pisses people off, for lack of a better term, right? He really angers people, and people, he's lost all of his employees at times for his startups because they just didn't want to work with him anymore. So that's why he needs to take this course, because he needs to understand that relationship goals are often just as important as substance goals. And so effective negotiation occurs when substance issues are mutually agreed upon and working relationships are sustained or even improved, right? Because they say that very often, especially in that storming, norming, forming, etc., there's a place where the team will actually have some interference or some, sandpaper issues, what I call them, right? That's a little bit rough. The waters are rough. But then you come out of it in a better place. And so we think of two criteria for effective negotiation: the quality of the outcomes, it's satisfactory to all sides, and the harmony in relationships. So making sure that you end up with good interpersonal relationships. And I think that's where women have an issue historically. The research shows that women are less apt to negotiate their salary. And so that's why biggest reason why we often have lower salaries, because we don't want to have disharmony in the relationship. And I get it. I've been there. I thought it was just me, but it's not. It's all women. If someone gives us a job offer, we're like, oh, so excited, but we don't want to start off on the wrong foot. But the book is saying you won't start off on the wrong foot if you do your homework and you understand what the other party is looking for, and you truly feel that you are more valued. So, and very often other party can respect that. So yeah, really important that we understand, that there doesn't have to be disharmony in relationships after we negotiate. We understand the negotiation strategies. So distributive negotiation. Each party tries to claim certain portions of the available pie, where the overall pie is considered fixed. So, right, we think that there's only one solution and we can only get certain parts of the pie. And again, coming back to Elon Musk, he was like 90-10, 90-10. No, they did 50-50, but then they gave Elon some other essential responsibilities that made him CEO. So there was kind of actually more than 100. Same thing when I'm referring to my job offers. When I came to LMU, I actually didn't negotiate more salary, but I did negotiate a business trip to to my MGEM to where I needed to go with Dale to speak to the new students that were coming in. And so that was really exciting for me. That was a pivotal piece. She was happy to take me with her, but I still felt like I needed to drive home that I was definitely going to go with her because A, I wanted to go to Barcelona, but more importantly, I wanted to meet the team there. I knew it would make it be easier for my job to do my job. It'd be great to meet the students, etc. It would just be a really key foundational piece of my new role. And so that's where I was able to negotiate. And, it wasn't just a number. That's not the overall size of the pie. Actually, the pie was actually much bigger. So the second is integrative negotiation, principled negotiation on the merits of the issue, mutually agreed upon ways of distributing the pie rather than staking claims to certain portions of it. Yeah, so again, thinking that maybe how can we distribute these portions, and maybe it's just not 50-50 or 90-10 to two different people, but maybe we can distribute it amongst different people with different roles, etc. And when we talk about distributive negotiation, people often think of it as like a win-lose episode, right? And that's where Peter Thiel, I think, whether you like him or not, he was very mature. He was saying, um, that we can come into this and it doesn't have to be a win-lose situation. This is a long-term deal. He was much more experienced than Elon Musk at the time. Elon was only like 27, 28. And he kind of walked away from the deal, and Peter said, no, he's going to come back to us. And he did. So distributive negotiation tends to unfold in one of two directions, a hard battle for dominance or a soft and quick concession. Hard bargaining. These things, this is what makes people want to negotiate, right? Because each party holds out to get its own way. It's not fun. Parties seek dominance over the other and try to maximize self-interest, leading to competition. And you can say maybe Russia's doing this now, right? With Ukraine. They're not really able to negotiate in any way. They're just fighting against each other. Soft bargaining is one or both parties make concessions just to get things over with. This happened in the Czech Republic when the Nazis came in. As you know, Germany had a lot of devastation. A lot of buildings were hurt in the bombings, etc. Poland too. Warsaw is all new because Warsaw was just demolished by the Nazis. But the Czech Republic, one of the few cities in Europe that did not have any violent disruptions, is because the Czechs immediately gave concessions to the Nazis. They said, fine, we don't think that we will ever win against you. So they accommodated, they gave in. And so they gave up a lot, right? So the Nazis came in and got rid of all the Jews and did a lot of bad things, right? Because then eventually the communists came in. So but that's soft bargaining, when one party decides to make a concession. Both, distributive negotiation, when you think there's only a win-lose situation. Here's this bargaining zone. And this is, in a two-party negotiation, this is why you always ask if they say what's the kind of salary you're looking for. Well, here in California now it has to be published what the salary is, but you'll notice it's a range. If you're negotiating in a different state and they don't post the salary, you're welcome to ask and just say, is there a range for this salary? And this is what that orange place is. So, right, the recruiter has an offer, you have an offer, and then you're bargaining here in this range. So you want to ask for that range. And that's legit. That's a legitimate way to negotiate a job offer. Here we have integrative or principled negotiation. So this is what I remember the most when I studied negotiations in business school. Actually, took a whole course, like a 8-week course or something, 10-week course in just negotiations, because when you talk about global business, international business, this shows up quite a bit. And so the thing that I took away the most was this BATNA, the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And so first, we have to have a willingness to negotiate based on the merits. So, right, Maybe that's part of it, that at Thunderbird, we were teaching people that you want to have a willingness to negotiate. It's less confrontational, a wider range of alternatives, adopting a win-win orientation. And that BATNA is each party must know what he or she is willing to do if an agreement cannot be reached. And that was really the main thing, that you come to the table knowing kind of what your levels were, knowing that, yes, you wanted the platinum prize, but you're also okay going home with the gold or the silver or the bronze prize. And that's something you review with your colleagues ahead of time, etc. And so if there's one thing you remember from this course, I think it would be useful to remember BATNA. And engaging the negotiation process here. This should all look familiar, right? Preparation. First, the decision is to negotiate in a particular way. How are you going to negotiate it? Hopefully collaborative rather than adversarial. This will help. And then we're going into it hoping for a win-win situation. Assess the situation, right? Is negotiating appropriate at this stage? Are you both, calm down, nobody's upset, is this the time in the process when we're really needing to negotiate? Like when you get the job offer, right? You don't negotiate the salary before you even get the offer. They're still interviewing you and finding out if you are going to be a good fit for the role. But once they figure out that they'd like to hire you, then is when you start the negotiation process of the salary. Prepare, find out what they know, right? So again, like Elon Musk, like many good negotiators, like this guest speaker that we have, find out what they know, find out the history, find out what they know about you, etc. And then engage. And either you can maybe make the first ask or wait for them to make the first ask. That's really up to you and your style or kind of how you read the room. So 3 easy steps to how to engage the negotiation process. 2 more slides, and then we'll end the second section of chapter 11. How can I guard against common negotiation pitfalls? So again, the myth of the fixed pie. So that to make a gain, something else must be extracted. That's not hardly ever the case. You're always potentially, you're not thinking of more things, that they come to the table with some solutions as well. Escalating commitment. They lock in their demands and are reluctant to back down. And then you have to go to managers, or you have to go to someone else who has higher authority. Right, the Ukraine and Russia, they were battling it out, and then they couldn't make any headway for the most part, and then Ukraine brought in NATO and the United States, and still we're kind of battling it out, but then the rest of the world is saying like, okay, Russia, you need to back down, and even though they maybe consciously haven't said that, but they have started to retreat in certain places in certain ways. Overconfidence, never a good thing, right? Our ego starting to get involved. Don't think that your way is the only way. I think you've met people like that, and it is just so frustrating. And communication problems. Really communicate and practice your active listening. When someone speaks, repeat back to them what you think you're hearing so that they can make sure that you're hearing it correctly. Really take notes, make sure that you really truly are listening to them. And take on their perspective as well, try and understand the situation from their shoes. Sometimes an organization, a small organization, they really can't negotiate your salary, unfortunately. Know when to bring in a third party. So this is escalating it. A third party, these people are hired, like our friend who works in Dubai, with persons involved in negotiation to help them resolve impasses and settle disputes. They're helpful in moving things forward because they're unbiased, hopefully, especially when the parties don't trust each other. Arbitration is one. Salary arbitration, no common professional sports. A third party acts as the judge and has the power to issue a decision that is binding on all parties. So again, this person is neutral. Also in right, divorces and things like that, you have arbitration sometimes or mediation. This is where the third party tries to engage the parties in a negotiated solution through persuasion and rational argument. So then the parties are involved, as opposed to just a judge saying what the answer would be. So that is the end of section 2, chapter 11. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you in the final section of the final chapter in a minute.